Branden Durst has covered a lot of ground in his political career, from Democratic lawmaker in Idaho to trying to be one in Washington, to Boise School District trustee candidate, to Republican candidate for Idaho State Superintendent, to analyst for the Idaho Freedom Foundation, to now newly appointed superintendent for the West Bonner County School District. A lot of ground physically and politically. That appointment was done by a 3-2 vote, which is still pending a state board approval. So there's a lot up in the air, though, with that approval. Joe Paris joins me now because, again, this is kind of have to go through a few more hoops. Not that it hasn't already been an arduous process to get this done. Yeah. What has to happen?
All right, so the process continues, Brian. That's what I'll say, for starters. The process continues. But yes, the West Bonner County School District, the board, they approved Mr. Branden Durst as the new district superintendent. The vote was 3-2. And it appeared, though, that the board chair wanted to go into executive session for the entire meeting, or at least the beginning of it, but that was prevented by a vote, 2-3, and it needed 2/3 majority to go into that private executive session. But let's start with the meeting itself, sort of a scattered public meeting. There seemed to be confusion and debate about a number of details and processes involving Durst's contract and a provision that would give legal protection to his wife if Durst is sued in civil court for actions he takes as superintendent. Maybe a case of flying the plane while building it. If you listen here, it's quiet because the West Bonner School Board sat quietly for extended periods of time while they checked details and facts of the matter that they were debating in real time. And eagle-eye viewers, you may even notice that the brown shoe and water bottle behind that door you see there, now those belong to Mr. Durst. So he was sitting just behind that doorway, and he was there in case you were curious. Throughout the meeting, you might have even seen him pacing behind. Anyways, though, like other meetings on this topic, full and passionate crowd in attendance, and they were very vocal. Here's a taste of the climate in the room when tempers or confusion or frustration flared. The topic at hand was the length and renewal of Durst's contract. We'll take a listen.
I made the amendment.
So yeah, there's a lot of audience participation, and you can hear the room going back and forth with the board. Some in the crowd tried to compose the audience, trying to quiet it down. But long story short for you, the board voted to approve a contract for essentially 2 years with the understanding that it is not an automatic renewal and there needs to be a review of Mr. Durst at the end of the year. So by a vote of 3-2, the board said that Durst is our guy. However, something more to consider. One of the requirements for Durst to get the district job, or any superintendent job across the state of Idaho, is to have 4 years of full-time certified experience working with students while under contract with an accredited school. Mr. Durst does not have that full 4-year term, so he needs a special emergency provisional certificate through the state. For that to happen, the school board needed to declare an emergency. And one board member, Carolyn Barton, she spoke up saying that she didn't see an emergency that should allow for this.
I do not see a need for our district to declare a state of emergency at this time. We currently have a candidate and potentially a few others in the district that are certified and able to fill as an interim superintendent position. Furthermore, from the research I have done, the superintendent candidate that was voted in is not currently qualified or able to fulfill all the duties of a public school superintendent, even with an emergency certification. The direction of our board has turned into a fascist dictatorship with an agenda, which is far from our conservative point of view. In no way open to uniting the board, employees of this district, or community. The direction or agenda that has been kept from the members, not only from the board, but our community.
Very quickly after that statement, the school board approved the declared emergency and ended the meeting, and then they later went on to some budget meetings. But what happens next? Well, the school board and Mr. Durst, they're going to fill out this. This is an application to the State Board of Education for an emergency provisional certificate, and this will end up with the State Board of Education where they can approve the certificate or not. If they do, Durst becomes a superintendent with the implication that he's expected to catch up on those qualifications. Could be for 1 year, could be possibly for 2. We'll have to wait and see. Now, if the State Board says no, the process in West Bonner gets really interesting. And Brian, I spoke today with state officials about the application, this emergency application. They tell me that the paperwork, when I spoke with them a short time ago, has not been processed. They have not received it yet. It will be public record, so we can share that with you as well as the vote when it all happens.
Okay, Joe, so that's good to know. But what does Branden Durst think about all this? Late this afternoon, we caught up with him from his new superintendent office in Priest River, and he admitted this appointment did not go as smoothly as he anticipated. My first question to him was why he wanted this job in the first place.
It's important that we can demonstrate that conservative principles work in public education. we've already had some preliminary conversations this morning around the budget, and I'm finding areas where we could, do things creatively or do things differently than we have before that'll allow us to utilize resources more efficiently or more effectively. And on the personal side, I think it's important to teach my children that you can do hard things, even when people are opposed to you, even things look difficult. That you can do hard things when there's obstacles in your way.
You talked about saving money and cutting costs within the district. How does that mesh with what you were asking for with your original contract?
So I think it's important to recognize that preliminary negotiations with contracts are supposed to be private matters. And, it's unfortunate that the board or someone in the district chose to make that a public document when it was supposed to be a private document. Anyone who's done negotiations understands that you have to aim high to get to a middle level. And that's what I was doing. If I didn't know how to negotiate, I'd have no business sitting in the seat I'm sitting in right now.
Well, there you go. Well, him sitting in that seat he's sitting in right now is per state board approval, by the way. Branden says he does plan to ask lawmakers to change the requirements for school superintendents this upcoming session, especially as they apply to rural areas of Idaho. Okay, so safe to say the last few school board meetings in West Bonner have been, well, anything other than a hot mess. Tough to say that. And things could be about to get messier. Two of those who have voted repeatedly to put Branden Durst in the super's office could soon be shown the district door themselves. According to the Bonner County Daily Bee, there's an attempt to remove Chair Keith Rutledge and Vice Chair Susan Brown from the West Bonner County School Board. It's still in the very early stages, but draft petitions with at least 20 signatures have been turned in this week to Bonner County Clerk. And the clerk sent me those recall petitions. Those signatures are still being verified, but they claim in this paperwork that Rutledge and Brown are not being open, fair, and honest, and they don't have the educational welfare of West Bonner County students as their first and greatest concern. They also say they both have a hidden agenda and have failed to fulfill their oaths to try and improve the schools and education in the West Bonner district. So how this works is the clerk is going to verify those 20 or so signatures, likely by tomorrow. Then they're going to start collecting other signatures, larger amounts of signatures. And if they can do that, there will be a recall election August 29th, or Rutledge and Brown could then resign voluntarily, either one.